Do you want to check out a tiling window manager, but you're not really sure where to start? Awesome Window Manager is probably the one you want to go with because it has some great beginner features and it's configured in Lua, which is a simple but very flexible language. Today we're going to install Awesome, we're going to get a first configuration set up, and we're going to take a look at maybe what steps you could do from there. So what we're going to do is we're going to install Awesome, so we say sudo apt install Awesome. I'm going to also install Awesome Extra and Awesome Doc. So Awesome is the window manager itself. Awesome Extra is some extra widgets that you can add in, and Awesome Doc is the documentation to the API. So I won't probably be using Doc and Extra at the moment, but it never hurts to go and install them just to have them out there. So first up, we need to copy over the default configuration file and the default theme. We can go ahead and do that before we actually move over to Awesome. So by default, you probably won't have a folder created in your .config, so we need to make that directory. So make mkdir, make directory, .config / awesome. So that works because I am already in the home directory. If I was in another directory, I would need to type out the full path, something like this. If I can type here, /awesome. So I'd have to type out something like that. You can do this, if you do make directory this, if you were in a different folder instead of the home folder, you could run this command right here and that would actually make it work. But I do not need to run that because we've already created that. So to copy the actual configuration file, we need to say sudo, because we're going to have to go into the etc directory, cp, and then /etc /xdg /awesome. And now we should have rc.lua. We do. So we're going to copy rc.lua, and we're going to say copy that to, and then we're going to say home /.config /awesome /rc.lua. So to copy the theme, it's sudo cp usr share awesome themes default and then theme.lua. And I am going to copy that to home.config /awesome theme.lua. There we go. So now that we've done that, we can actually switch over to Awesome. So to switch over to Awesome, we can go ahead and close this browser, and then we can hit the button here, and we're going to log out, and that's going to log out. So some people may be asking, why would I want to install a tiling window manager? There are a few reasons. So the first reason is speed. After the initial learning curve and getting everything set up and dialed in, you get to the point where you know your setup extremely well and you can fly through the commands. You can resize windows, you can move windows, you can quit windows, you can open windows, all with just a few keystrokes. You don't have to take the time to reach over and grab the mouse. You just use the keyboard almost exclusively. And that's why Vim and Emacs and stuff like that are still being used, because of the speed with which they can do things. The second thing, and in a similar vein, is that flexibility. You can set up things however you need them to be set up. If you want to have a different workflow and you want to have 20 workspaces with a different layout for each one, you can do that. If you want to have windows open in specific workspaces, you can do that too. There are so many things you can set up within Awesome that I'm not even going to touch on today, but it's something that you can have this crafted setup, and then you can, upload that to GitHub or GitLab or whatever, and download that into any PC that has Awesome installed and use that. The third reason is that some people like to use less resources for their environment. And so a desktop environment is going to use more. So generally a desktop environment is going to use more than a typical window manager. And that's also the case with the tiling window managers. But that's kind of a lesser thing nowadays. Even KDE Plasma has gotten a lot slimmer when it comes to what it actually needs to run. And that's going to log out of our GNOME Display Manager, or log out to our GNOME Display Manager. So we're going to click our username, and here's the trick in GNOME. And the GNOME Display Manager, you have to click your name first before you'll see this. And you go down here and click this, and you switch over to Awesome. And then you can come up and type your password. And now we should be in Awesome, and we are. So right off the bat, you'll notice that we're probably in some weird resolution. We're going to fix that momentarily. But you'll notice here there's a little button up here at the top left. You can get to a lot of your applications from this if you want to use your mouse to do so. You can also click through your desktops across the top here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way to 9. And then you can also click through the actual modes over here. Right now, by default, it's going to set up in floating mode. This is one of the reasons that I say Awesome is a good option for a beginner, because a lot of this is very mouse friendly. Like, I can do a lot with my mouse that in other Windows managers, sometimes you just have nothing if you don't configure things. While with Awesome, we have a look at all of our workspaces, which I believe are called tags in Awesome. We have a little menu right here, and we have an option to switch the workspaces. And I'll show you really quick what that looks like by just bringing up 2 terminals. So you'll notice right now, like, these are just normal. Like, you can't really tell that this is all that different than a normal desktop. What if I click here, I now have these side by side. I can't click to drag these anymore. I can click and kind of swap these, but that's it. I can't, and to show you I'm swapping, like, I can move these right and left. That's it. I can't resize these. I can't do anything else with my mouse, really. I'm going to quit that one. By default, it is Super Shift C. So by default, it is Super Shift C to close. Super Enter is the open a terminal. You can also get a good overview of what the shortcuts are by pressing Super S. And you'll notice I have all of these options listed out here. For some reason, my screen, this looks particularly difficult to read. It doesn't help that I have a light right behind the screen, so that could be part of the problem. But I'm going to change these at some point here. I just have to get to the point where I can do that. But to actually go in and edit this, I'm going to go in and install Vim. I may have already installed it here, but just in case I have not, okay, I have, good. So we're going to say Vim. Actually, let's just cd to the Awesome directory, because we're going to be using a lot from those directories. So cd.config/awesome, and now we should have rc.lua and theme.lua. We do. So let's say vim rc.lua. We're going to go GG to the top. So this might look like a lot, but we're going to make some just minor changes just to try to put this a bit more like you might want to use it. And I'm just going to show you some things where you can actually, change or disable some stuff. So notice right here, so I was having an issue with this, and I haven't, I'll have to see how to fix it. But notice right here, we have local hotkeys pop-up required, and then awful hotkeys pop-up. Below that it says enable hotkeys help widget for Vim and other apps. So I think this is where you could go, like, there's a way you can actually enter like gvim, but that did not seem to work, so I think that's missing from the configuration here. I may need to see about how to get that added. Most of this we can kind of skip over. A lot of this is just the default, and for right now it's not something we should really worry about as somebody who tries to really get into this. But one thing right here, you see this beautiful .init. This is our theme folder, and so what we want to do is we want to I'm going to go into insert mode, and I'm going to change this to just be let me exit. We're going to do dw. We delete everything before the actual file path, and we're just going to say home/.config/awesome, and we'll just delete that out and just say awesome and then theme.lua. So that is our directory, so that should put us into that particular one. We're going to go on and save that change with :W. Oh, interesting. I am in home, so that should be fine. Okay, quit. Let's run that again and try to write. Okay, now it seems to be doing okay. Not sure what was going on there. Maybe it just didn't quite properly copy, but I was able to go ahead and force the update. because I know for sure that this is not anything, there's nothing else going on. So by default, you're going to notice that my setup is not 1080p at this point. So let's go ahead and fix that before we continue. So to fix that, the easiest thing that I have found is to say sudo apt install arandr, arander. And so now that we've got that installed, we can say arander, and it's going to bring up this little window here. I can click outputs, virtual one. I can change the resolution, and I'm going to change this back down to 1080p, and I'm going to hit apply. And now we're in a much better shape. So I'm going to go in and hit Control Shift plus 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 and Control L to get rid of all the rest of this. And now we're back to the point where everything is back up. What we'll need to do is, if we want to use a different terminal, we need to update this terminal editor. I don't have anything fancy right now that I really want to use, so I'll probably hold off on doing this for right now. But if you had, for example, if you wanted to use Kitty, or if you wanted to even just bring up console, or the GNOME editor, whatever, you could put that all here, and it would fix that out. Down below here, you have the mod key. So the mod key is what's used in a lot of different commands. And so by default, the mod key is mod 4, which is the super key on the keyboard, and which is generally between Control and Alt on a traditional Windows style or Linux style keyboard. But you can use a different modifier, but you're probably going to conflict with other default key bindings. So you'd really want to go through and actually make sure to change this if this was something that you really wanted to not use the Windows key or super key. And so next up, we come to the layouts. And notice it says at the end here, order matters. And the reason for that is because this is the order it will go through if you go up and start clicking the button. And also, whichever one of these is first, that will be what layout loads in by default, unless you go in and specifically start setting up the individual layouts. So I'm going to delete floating from the start, because I want it to at least default to tiled until we get to the point where it's actually going to let me set up some other layouts. And I'm going to go and comment out a few of these that I don't really think I'm going to use. So like magnifier, I'm going to go in insert and dash dash, dash dash. And let's go in and get rid of these two spiral ones as well. I don't think I'll be using those for now. And fair horizontal. I may use fair, but probably not horizontal. Anyway, now that we've done that, we can also insert a new row and say awful.layout.suit.floating. And then add a comma at the end to end that line. And so let's write that. If we keep going down below here, we start getting into some of the widgets. So like this one is that menu that is up at the top left that you can click on and actually kind of scroll through. And it also lets you do things like quit awesome and awesome restart and things like that. So again, very mouse friendly compared to a lot of other ones. Okay, so we're going to keep on scrolling down. This is a lot of different stuff that we're going through here. Here's where things started getting a little bit more interesting. So right here, awful tag. Awful tag is where it's setting up the name of each workspace, and then the S and then comma awful layouts. That's where it's actually providing which layout. I believe one here is just talking about the first layout in the table awful layouts. So a table is a Lua term for a data structure here. And Lua is one indexed. For those that are into programming a bit more, you know what that means. For everybody else, essentially most programming languages, when you start going through a list, you start at 0. But Lua, you start at 1. So I'm going to redo this. And so what I'm going to say is local names equals, and then I'm going to open my curly brace. And I'm going to say something like main for the first one. I'm going to say www for the second one. I'm going to say OBS for the third one. I'm going to say Office for the fourth one. And I'm going to say videos. Let's say videos and music or something like that. Videos for the fourth one. I'll leave it videos just so it's not too long. then I'm going to close curly brace. So this will give me 5 different workspaces. I'm not going to go ahead and recreate 6, 7, 8, and 9 because right now I don't need them, but I am sure I will eventually think of some reasons that I might need them. So next up, we're going to say local, and then L equals, and it's going to be awful.layout.suit. So what this L is going to do is it's going to assign awful.layout.suit to L, and this is going to save us some typing. It's really important to make sure that you're adding these locals in to keep the scope of these variables to this particular portion of the script. So next I'm going to say local, and I'm going to call this a layout, and I'm going to say equals. And so now we need to enter 5 layouts. You don't need the quotes here. It's L.tile, L.tile, L.floating, L.floating, and then I'm going to say L.floating just because I'm forgetting the full screen right now. And so now that we have, whoops, it's L, I just have L float. I need to make it L.floating. Floating. There we go. So now that we've done that, we need to say awful.tag, and we'll say names s layouts. And so what we've done is we've essentially taken this command and we've rewritten it this way. And that way we should have the actual layouts set up for specific screens without needing to go and cycle them and having them reset every time we restart the computer. So below that, we have more widget stuff, and I think most of the rest of this is widget stuff that for right now, I'm not really caring about changing. Oh, here we go. There is something here though. So now we got to the keybinds. And so you'll notice there's a lot here that you can kind of look through and see if there's anything worth changing. I do know that there is one that I want to change, and that is the close command. So I am looking for Super Shift C. Here we go, Super Shift C. So mod key, Shift C. So I'm going to delete the shift here, and it's just mod key, comma, and then I'm going to change C to Q. You don't have to do this, obviously, but this is what I'm going to do because that is easier for me to remember because, you know, super quit. So function, and I think the rest of these I'm probably just going to leave the same for now. And now we're to the point, bind all number keys to tags. So this is this would map the top row of your keyboard, usually 1 to 9. So this is actually going in and mapping all of your number keys to tags. So I'm going to leave this alone because this is definitely a bit more advanced than I am ready for at this time. And here we go. Okay, and I think we're basically, yeah, we're at the end. There's only like 580 something rows. So let's write this and quit. There we go. So now let's Control Super R to reload Awesome. We would see an error message in my experience right up here if we had an error, which we do not. So now you'll notice it's kind of small. I'll try to zoom in on the video here, but you'll notice I have main, I have www, and you'll notice www is default tiling. If I go over here to OBS, you'll notice that is also default floating. So this all took as expected. And let's go back. So now we want to do some minor tweaks to the theme just so that you can see what this looks like. So I say vim theme.lua. All right. So one that I ended up wanting to add, let me pull up the... So my kind of issue was with this thing. I'm going to see if I can increase the size at some point, but I found the gray on black to be a little difficult to read. So what I did, should come back to this. We do. So let's write that. We did. I don't know why I didn't copyright the first time, but it's okay. So now back to what we were doing here. So we need to say theme.hotkey underscore modifiers underscore foreground, and then equals, and then we need to insert a color. So I'm just going to put 111111. That should be a nice kind of light, very light gray. It almost looks white. And so we're going to press enter there. I don't think there's anything that I really care about changing right now, but WQ, and then we're going to Control Super R, and that'll reload Awesome. We didn't get an error, so now if I hit Super S, we still got that really dark. Super Control R and Super S. There we go. So yeah, it's F is white, 0 is black. So I was entering a very dark gray, and that's why it was not happy about that. You can go out and obviously take somebody else's configuration and just use that or learn from it. But first, I would recommend just looking through the config files yourself and looking at maybe some of the recipes they have on the Awesome website, or maybe check out my article that I'll have linked in the description. Keep in mind, these are just my changes so far. There are many, many different things you can do and many things that you can add that are not even touched on in the default layout and default theme and whatnot. My article also has some links to the documentation as well as a few helpful recipes that I found useful along the way. One of them talks about modularizing your code so that you're not looking at this 500 line config file. Instead, you have a config file of like 80 lines and then a lot of your configuration broken up into other files. And that sounds like something that if I get more into Awesome, that I'll probably be working through. So thanks for watching, have a great day, and I will see you next time.